friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. Today's video is a requested video. Several weeks ago, it may have even been months ago by now, but someone commented that when it comes to vacuum sealing, there are so many different methods and so many different ways to do it, gadgets, devices, and they're all scattered throughout different videos. And that it would be really nice if someone put out a video of all the different all things vacuum sealing and all the different methods in one video. And I thought that was an excellent idea, so that's what we're doing today. We're going to cover 7 different ways to vacuum seal. Now, all of those 7 methods are going to involve some kind of device or gadget. But really quick, before we hop into that, I just want to give you one quick tip. If you are someone who just cannot get any kind of gadget or device right now, I completely understand that. And the best way that I have found is 2 different methods to get, you're not going to get a vacuum seal without a machine, but you can get a decreased oxygen-free environment, not an oxygen-free environment, but just a decreased amount of oxygen in your bags if you do these 2 things. Number 1 is going to be to get your package up your foods in a bag, put a little straw at the corner of the bag, zip it shut all the way up against that straw, and suck the air out through the straw. Take the straw out, zip it up really quick. That's going to be one way. The other way is going to be submerging the bag in water. And that's kind of really hard to explain just like with words. So we have a video on how to freeze broth where we demonstrate that with a liquid broth. We demonstrate that water suction type method. So I will link that in the description box below if you are interested in that. But today's video is going to be showing you all the different devices and gadget options so that you can decide which one is going to be best for you. Let's get started. Welcome to Food Prep Guide. My name is Jordan. I'm a homeschooling mom to 3, living on 3 beautiful acres with my wonderful husband. A health crisis forced our family to change the way we think about food. Unfortunately, it also put us in financial hardship. Thankfully, the solution to both challenges was the same: to live off the land as much as possible. For us, that means growing a garden, preserving the harvest, raising chickens, and cooking from scratch. It's definitely a family affair. And friends too. Meet Stacy, researcher, author, and lifelong learner. She entered the world of food preservation in the crazy days of 2020. She joined a gleaning co-op and a local grocer offered her clearance produce in bulk, and so the adventure began. Together, we're reclaiming the old ways of food stewardship and teaching them to the next generation. If there's one thing you should know about us, it's that we love Jesus and seek to steward his blessings wisely. Our table always has room for one more, so y'all come join us. Okay, device number 1 is going to be your standard full-sized vacuum sealer. This is the thing that has been around for decades. Most people are pretty common with what they are and probably how to use them, but I am going to quickly demonstrate how to use this to vacuum seal just things that you would store like in your freezer and stuff like that. When you're vacuum sealing fresh foods, it does not make them shelf stable. I have seen that question floating around in groups before, online, different forums, social media and stuff like that, but just because you vacuum seal something doesn't mean that it is shelf stable. So we are still going to need to store these in the fridge or the freezer. This is what I'm going to be testing out today. I've been needing, you can see it's just in a regular bag. I've been needing to vacuum seal this for a while now. Just haven't gotten around to it. This is left over from when we purchased some pork fat for rendering lard. When you are rendering lard, you really want to cut away any pieces of meat or any pieces of the fat that is still like attached to meat. You want to trim off as much of that as possible. So this was just basically what was left over from that, and I need to get that in a vacuum sealed bag. For the vacuum sealer, you will need some sort of bag, and a lot of times your vacuum sealer will come with bags, but we have several different options available to us today. It's no longer just the bags that come with your machine, but they do make bags that are already formed for you, and you just literally put your food in and vacuum seal it. But it is cheaper to go ahead and just buy rolls of this plastic and make your own bags, which is just a matter of cutting and sealing, which I'll show you in just a minute. It's not just any plastic though. It is, it's got this vacuum sealer plastic is smooth on one side and bumped on the other. And what that does is it creates some texture there so that the bag doesn't lay completely flat to where it's really hard for the machine to suck the air out. That texture is just enough to keep that bag just a little bit open so that the machine can suck the air out. But to do this, one of the reasons why I absolutely love using rolls of plastic instead of pre-formed bags is because you can cut them according to whatever size that you need. So you can see I have this long skinny portion of food here. I really don't need a big bag. And if I were using those pre-cut bags, I would be wasting a good bit of plastic. So I'm just going to cut off a strip right here. And since it is just a roll of plastic, it is completely open on both sides, so we need to go ahead and seal it on one of the sides. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to place one end right there. And on your food saver bag, well, this is a food saver, but any kind of vacuum sealer, it's going to have a seal button and it's going to have a vacuum button. You're going to use the seal button to create your bags, and you're going to use the vacuum button to actually suck it out. So I'm just going to hit the seal button. Oops, I need to lock it first. Now I'm going to hit the seal button. It doesn't make any noise while it's sealing. All you know that it's working is there's a little indicator light. You just have to wait for that light to go off. Okay, the light is off. And you can see I have a seal here. So now I can go ahead and transfer the contents of this bag into here. And then we are going to vacuum seal it. I mentioned the textured side and the smooth side. When you're vacuum sealing, it doesn't matter which side goes down first. You can seal it on the textured side, you can seal it on the smooth side, it really doesn't matter. Most vacuum sealers are going to have a locking mechanism, which will allow the machine to not work until you've locked it. So over here on this machine, there's a little lock that I have to push, and then I can hit the vacuum button. And after the machine stops sucking, there is still going to be a little bit of a wait time so it gets that good seal, because it heats up. It's basically what it's doing. It's heating up the plastic and melting it together. So you don't want to pop that lid as soon as it stops. You want to wait a little bit. Mine has an indicator light that goes ahead and lets you know to wait, but not all of them do have an indicator light. So just know that if yours does not have an indicator light, just wait about a minute before you open it. Okay, and it is sealed. Nice and vacuum sealed, and this will now last much longer in my freezer and not get freezer burnt than it would have if I had kept it in this bag. So one thing to note, whoops, sorry about that. One thing to note, if you are going to get a vacuum sealer and you are still shopping for one, you want to get one that has an accessory port and or a handheld accessory. So an accessory port is going to be, there's just going to be like a hole on your machine. And you can purchase all different types of accessories and it will connect to the hole. Mine already has the accessory hose built into it. It's retractable, and so I can take this and put it on top of, let's say, we've seen these mason jar lids, and we will be getting into this in more detail throughout this video. But I could essentially put this hole, you see how there's a hole right there? I could line it up with the hole of this thing on top of my mason jar and vacuum seal the jar that way. Let me just go ahead and show you, because I did say this is, it's not vacuum sealed. I do want to be very detailed and show every option that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and put this accessory on here. I'm going to use my hose here that's connected to the machine. I'm going to click operate. Now instead of clicking vacuum over here, I'm going to click the button that says handheld. If yours has an accessory port that's just a hole right here, you probably are going to have a button right next to it that says accessory. That's the button you would push, but of course just read your manual and do whatever it says. Do you hear that tick? Okay. Gonna see, try to pry it open. I can't pry it open. I'm gonna be using this same jar over and over again. So I'm gonna go ahead and release it. You can hear the vacuum seal when I release it. just like that. So it was vacuum sealed. So you can absolutely seal jars with a machine like this. So if we can seal jars with a machine like this, why even bother with all the other gadgets? And I will show you why right now. It's because of the portability and the size difference. This can fit in a drawer, this cannot. And in my teeny tiny house and teeny tiny kitchen, I can't even store this in my kitchen. So I have to go to a different storage area of my house to lug this thing out. Whereas this, I can just open my drawer, put it in, boom. Same thing with the other, same thing with the other devices that we will talk about. So what are the use cases for this type of machine? Is going to be for your meats, your vegetables, anything, if you do freezer meals, anything that you're going to want to store in the refrigerator and freezer and keep in a fresh state, and you don't want to can it, dehydrate, anything like that, that's what you're going to use a vacuum sealer machine like this for, okay? And I wanted to show you one other, I want to show you one other way. So I mentioned that there are multiple options for bags when you're using a vacuum sealer. The other option, besides already preformed bags, besides your rolls, you can have, they now make reusable zipper bags. These are great for, which I'm about to show you, is when you need to reach in and just get one or two things out of the bag and then put it right back in the freezer. So what it does is it just has a valve, an air valve right here, and that's how you're going to suck out your air. So let me go get you my freezer cubes real quick. Okay, so here's an example, and I need to talk quickly because these things start melting so fast, but these are my basil and olive oil cubes. We have a video on how we preserve different herbs, and I talked to you about how I mix my basil with olive oil, put them in ice cube trays, plop them out, put them in a bag, put them in the freezer. The problem with putting them in a bag just like this is freezer burn. These are only less than 3 months old, and it's already forming ice crystals on the side. And that's where one of these baggies really come in handy, because you don't have to cut open the bag and ruin it in order to get what you need out. You can just unzip it. And when you have a really easy portable vacuum sealer like this one that I just mentioned earlier, it's not a big deal to reseal the bag every time you pull an ice cube out, every time you pull a basil cube out or anything like that. Do I need to wash my hands? No. Okay. So I'm just going to seal it like I would a regular bag. I'm not going to be too concerned about getting all the air out. The machine's going to take care of that for me in just a minute. But I am going to seal it really well. And this is, again, why you need a machine with an accessory port, whether it's just a hole that you're going to attach a hose to, or whether yours has a built-in port like this. You have to have this in order to utilize bags like this. Let me bring this over here so you can see. So I'm going to line up the hole of this circle with this hole and operate. Again, I'm going to push the handheld button. I really want you to be able to see how it sucks out, because it's so satisfying. Isn't it satisfying to watch something vacuum seal out? Okay. Okay, here we go. I don't want to rob you of the satisfaction of seeing something get vacuum sealed. It's so satisfying. Okay, so I'm going to use this handheld thing right here because I can't hold the camera and balance this and then push that button up there. But just know you could use your accessory port and you would just click that handheld button right here. But this time I'm going to use this handheld device. You will see more of this in a future clip on this video. I'm just going to line it up over that circle and hold the button down. Okay, so did you see how I had to kind of finagle it? So whether you use one of these or whether you use a handheld device like this, when it comes to these airbags, it is like if you press down all the way hard, it's really hard for the machine to be able to suck the air out. So you kind of have to lift up just a little bit and kind of like finagle it a little bit until it really gets a good suction. But once it does get that good suction, you've got that right angle, you can see it does a fantastic job of getting it vacuum sealed. And so now I can take out just one basil cube for my tomato basil soup. And then this can be sitting in my drawer and I can just very quickly vacuum seal that air back out. Okay, that is it for this machine. Let's move on to method number 2. Okay, so scratch that. I said we were moving on to method number 2, but method number 2 was showing you how to use either the accessory port or a handheld device on those special zip top bags that have the little valve on them. So that was method number 2. So method number 3 we're moving into right now, and that is vacuum sealing mason jars. We have multiple different options for this particular project. So for the first one, I'm going to talk to you about this device here. This is a rechargeable device. You can see that here. So it doesn't take, you don't have to replace batteries, but you are going to need to recharge it whenever the battery dies. And you're going to need some sort of accessory. Now this particular company called WeVac, go ahead and gives you an accessory port in the box with you, in the box that it comes in. You have the accessory port here. You have some accessory bags that come with it. Actually, it was the bags that I just showed you, the zip top bags. And then it also has a bottle stopper, which I'm not going to show in this video. We don't ever vacuum seal bottles, but if you're someone who uses different bottles of different types of drinks and stuff and you want to reseal that, that would be what you would use this for. But here's what I'm talking about with using an accessory. So in order to vacuum seal mason jars, you're going to need some kind of top like this. You're going to need one for your wide mouth jars and one for your regular mouth jars. These are the ones that come inside the WeVac kit. You have, I've been using the brake bleeder pump, which we will show you in just a minute. And in order to use that, I needed to have these accessory hoses, or these, not hoses, accessory tops. I've had these for years. And so if you already have something like this, then you can get away with buying just the device and not the full kit. But if you don't have this, you may as well go ahead and get the device and the accessory all in one go. But just so you know, these food saver tops, if you already have these, will work with whatever suction device that you get, as long as it has a circular, which I think most of them are designed like this. This WeVac one is most certainly designed like that, a circular with a little hole in the middle. As long as you line that hole up with this one, you're good to go. So I'm going to use the accessory that came with this particular WeVac machine. This is a wide mouth lid, so I'm going to go ahead and place this on top. It places on top just like this. This rubber is what is just helping you get a good solid kind of seal and suction down onto the thing. When you start the vacuum sealing process, you will feel the lid kind of pull down, and that's why you need this rubber seal on your whatever accessory that you have. The food saver accessories have them as well. Okay, so here we go. I mentioned that we need to line up the center hole on your device with the accessory port. For this particular WeVac device, you will hold down the button for the entire time until you either hear a beep, which that beep tells you, okay, it's full, you can go ahead and stop, and then you would release the button. Or if it can also just operate for 2 minutes straight, and then it will automatically click off. So it will not allow you to vacuum seal longer than 2 minutes. And nothing ever takes a 2 full minutes to vacuum seal, so you don't really have to worry about that. So I'm either just going to let it go until it beeps or let it go until it stops. The lid is just slowly going down. Did I put the lid on? I don't think I put the lid on. Don't think I put the lid. No, I didn't put the lid on. I bet y'all saw that and were laughing at me. Okay, hold on a minute. This is really important. You need the lid on your jar. Let's go ahead and get that on there real quick. And let's try this again. It will either beep or just turn off. As you get more familiar with vacuum sealing, you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to wait the full 2 minutes. You will get an idea of about how long it takes, and it's going to be somewhere in that 30 to 45-second range. You heard that beep, so it's saying you're done. Listen to the air suction come out. Okay. Wow. Okay, so let me mention this. So with the food savers, I am used to twisting this and kind of rocking it back and forth. This one, I can tell we just have to pull off. Just pull it off just like that. I started twisting it and it was not coming. It was so vacuum sealed shut, which is great. I could feel the strength of the vacuum. But that's interesting to note that different accessories, some you need to kind of twist off and some you just kind of yank off. Okay, so did we get it? The little button down is depressed. And again, I have to use this jar to demonstrate all the other ones, so I am going to release it. And you could hear that we had a very good vacuum seal. So there's one way to vacuum seal a mason jar. Another device is this type of device right here. The whole accessory port thing, the lid, and the suction device is in one device. So that's like a con. You know, everything has pros and cons. So what I love about this device is it's all in one, and I can click this button and it will vacuum seal and I can walk away from it. With this device, I need to sit there and hold the button, which that's a con, right? But let me tell you why so far. I haven't had this device for very long, but I have had this device for, I think it's probably been about 6 months. And I can see that this one provides a stronger suction. I can already see that. And I have a pet peeve with this type of device. I'm still using it. I keep this device next to my freeze dryer. That's where it lives. I don't ever use it in my kitchen, like through daily vacuum sealing and just different types of things like that. But when I'm freeze drying, I'm typically having to vacuum seal large amounts of jars at one time, which there's actually an even better trick. Method number 6 is going to blow your mind in this video. Stay tuned if you have a freeze dryer. But this is great for vacuum sealing multiple jars at a time because you can press the button and then continue moving on with packaging up other jars. But here's my pet peeve with it. It is this rubber ring. I have told you that all of these types of devices, in order for it to get a good suction on a mason jar, it has to have this rubber ring that allows it to kind of move and form itself to the jar. This rubber ring is a whole lot flimsier than both the WeVac one. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's just this one's thicker. And this one, every now and then, will lose its suction. But another reason why I do like this one is because the regular mouth and wide mouth is both built into the machine. So you just turn it, and now you have your wide mouth. Isn't that cool? I love that. But see what okay, perfect example. Okay, can you see this little flap right here? It's already kind of off of, it's already not seated right. Seated, that's the word I was looking for. I was like, what is that word? It's the word seated. It's already not seated right inside this thing, and that has happened to me frequently. And it's just like, you know, it's easy to fix. Look, I'm fixing it by just like pushing it back in. It's easy enough to fix, but it's just kind of, you know, like who wants to stop and deal with that when you're vacuum sealing a bunch of stuff? But it is really nice to have both the regular mouth and the wide mouth and the whole device being in one thing, right? So pros and cons, trade-offs, that's just how it is. Now, I don't know if this is going to happen when I seal this jar, so let me just explain to you, which it goes along with what I just said. Every now and then, the ring slips off of this rubber ring slips off of the jar, and it prevents me from getting a seal when I'm vacuum sealing. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I never know when it's going to happen. When it happens, all I have to do is pick it up, you know, push it back in there, and then reseal it, and it's usually fine. So let's see what happens this time. Not forgetting the lid this time. It goes on the same way that your other devices did. You just want to make sure it's seated good and flat. And with this device, you push it and the numbers will pop up here. Sometimes it will stop automatically when it reaches a certain, it doesn't go by a certain number, it goes by the amount of pressure that it can somehow sense that, you know, when it's like taking out as much air as it can. But I have found that I just pretty much go until 30 seconds, until this number says 30. That's what I have been doing, and I haven't had any issues with jars like coming popped open in storage or anything like that. So let me push that button. So you want to talk about with the numbers? Sounds like we got a good seat on that rubber this time because you heard that pop. If that rubber wasn't good and seated around the jar, we wouldn't have gotten that suction pop noise that you just heard. I don't know if it's going to stop automatically. Like I said, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm just going to go into the 30 mark if it doesn't stop automatically. Oh, I've got it upside down. That's why I was like, what is that number? 30, okay. So I'm going to hit it off. Okay, make sure you can see. Okay, so see, we didn't have any issues that time with the rubber slipping off, and I've got a good seal. Like I said, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't happen, it's really nice because I can push that button, walk away, package up my next jar, and it's like an assembly line, you know what I mean? But anyway, nice and vacuum sealed. Okay, so there is your next option. Option number, what are we on? 5? 5, yes. Option number 5 is my favorite for not having to worry about batteries and charging or having electricity, and that is the brake bleeder pump. I will tell you that it's a workout. So when I am vacuum sealing multiple jars at one time, I don't use this because you have to pump it with your hand, and it is a workout on your hand, on your arm muscles. But it's a fantastic option for not needing electricity, charging batteries, anything like that. So I'm going to do the same thing. Put the lid on the jar, and you will need some sort of accessory top here. I can use the Food Saver lids that I have always had, or I can go ahead and use the accessories that came with the WeVac machine. If you don't have any, if you don't have any of these gadgets, you don't have any of the accessory ports, it would be nice to get an all-in-one kit that already has the accessory in it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one that came with the WeVac. Put it on. They all fit the same. They're like universal size fits, so you don't have to worry about that. Let me get you set up closer. Okay, here we go. So here is the brake bleeder pump. This is an automotive tool that they use to bleed brakes. So that is what it is. And what you're going to do is put this needle inside the hole of this top, and you're going to pump until this needle right here basically stops. In general, it's going to stop between the 15 and 20 mark. You can see the 15 and 20 mark. That's generally where it's going to stop, but you're just going to keep pumping until this needle is not pumping anymore. It's not moving anymore, even though you're still pumping. That's when you know you've got a good solid seal. Here we go. Whoops. There we go. I didn't have a good grip on it. Okay, we just passed the 10 mark. Just past the 15 mark. Okay, it is not moving anymore. The needle is not moving anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off. Oh yeah, this one doesn't twist, this one just pulls. Gotta remember that. Wow, this thing is so solid. Okay. Good solid seal. Nice, good solid vacuum seal. So that is the brake bleeder pump. I don't know if I've mentioned this, I can't remember, but all of these will be linked in the description box below to help you do your shopping and figure out which one is going to be best for you. Okay, method number 6 is for those of you that have a freeze dryer. Method number 7 is going to be for anybody, but method number 6 is going to be if you have a freeze dryer and you can vacuum seal jars in bulk in one go inside your freeze dryer. So let's take you back to my freeze dryer area, and we'll show you that. Okay, here we are. I'm sorry for the kind of weird angle. It's really tight space in here. So in order to vacuum seal inside your freeze dryer, you're going to need to take your trays out. Now, if you have a freeze dryer, you already know how to disconnect your trays. If you don't, check your user manual and see how to do that. So I have taken my trays out, and in order to take your trays out, you have to take off your rubber ring right here. So I've got that off. So now I'm going to take one freeze dryer tray and slide that into the bottom. and that's just going to give me a solid platform to put my jars. So I've got multiple jars here. I'm going to load up that tray just to visually demonstrate how many jars you can do at one time. I'm only going to have one jar full, and the reason why I want to have one jar full is because I want to show you the strength of the suction when you vacuum seal this way. It will literally pull up these potatoes inside the jar when you try to release it. But anyway, most of these are just going to be empty jars, and what you need to do is barely screw your ring on to fingertip tight, just like as if you were canning, because we do need the air to be able to come out of that jar. So you're not going to tighten your ring all the way down, just as if you're canning, fingertip tight, and that's how we're going to load in our jars. Oh, sorry, that was loud. So let me make sure all these are fingertip tight. And then this last one, the potatoes, just fingertip tight. Okay, now we're going to do like what we would normally do if we were going to be freeze drying. So I'm going to go ahead and put this vacuum seal, this ring on. I've got vacuum seal on the brain, so now I'm saying it all the time. Get this rubber ring on. Make sure it's nice and solid against that machine. Such an awkward angle. If I get like in front of the machine, it's just an awkward angle in here. Sorry, y'all. Okay. I'm gonna shut it. Lock it. I'm going to close the valve just like we would if we were doing a normal freeze dryer run. Okay, valve is closed, so now I'm going to bring you up close and show you what we're going to do differently. Okay, there's our chamber. Here's our menu. And instead of pushing either of these buttons, we're going to push the logo here. And it's going to bring up a functional testing screen. And what this does, it allows you to test each different element of your machine. So if your machine was experiencing issues, you could use this to troubleshoot it. So what we're going to do is turn on this vacuum button. I'm not going to click it right now because I want to explain what's going to happen. As soon as I click that vacuum button, it's going to start vacuum sealing the jars. And it's going to start counting down right here. Now, when you are vacuum sealing this way, this machine, like, it wasn't designed specifically to do this. So there is no preset time period to vacuum seal your goods. I will generally go between 45 seconds and a minute. There's no rhyme or reason to that. There's no textbook or manual that says to do that, but 45 seconds to a minute seems to get a good seal. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click the on button, make sure everything is locked. I've got my valve closed back there. Very important. I'm going to let it go to about 50 seconds. That's between 45 seconds and a minute. Okay, 50 seconds. So now I'm going to click turn it back off. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute. And what's interesting is the vacuum sealing process isn't actually going to happen until we release the air right there. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see, the button on the middle of these jars are popped up. So you can see we don't have a vacuum seal yet. I'm laughing at my little reflection back there. Wave, say hi. Okay, so you can see that the lids are suctioned up. So I'm going to turn off the valve, and actually I'm going to get my little curious helper here to help me do this. Come here, come hold this right here. Got it? You gotta hold it up just a little bit. Yep, got it? Okay, I'm gonna pull this valve and you just keep it sitting right there. The reason why I want to do this is because when I click this valve, or when I release this valve, you can probably watch the bubbles of these center lids suction down. It's pretty cool. Here we go. Several of them popped. Did you see that? That's so cool. Okay, so the machine is making a whole lot of noise. We're gonna wait until all those weird noises stop. It looks like almost all of those jars are now sealed, but we will take those out in just a minute. The machine is still making some noises. At this point, I can go ahead and clear this screen, so I'm going to click done, get it back to home screen. Wait for all the weird noises to stop. Make sure that valve is completely open. Yes, it is. Okay. Okay. There we go. You hear all the noise stopped? Okay, so now we can open. I'm going to set you up and give you a close-up look of me opening these jars. Okay, here is our jar of shredded potatoes. Depressed. Okay, I'm going to open it. Okay, you can see we got a good vacuum seal. Let's look at the, let's just grab two more jars. Like I said, we got, how many? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 jars, it looks like. All of these jars will be vacuum sealed. Pretty cool. So we got almost a dozen jars vacuum sealed within less than a minute using this method. So if you have a freeze dryer, it's just a nice little hack to get some jars vacuum sealed quickly. Okay, last but not least way to get a good vacuum seal is with no device or gadget and just use an oxygen absorber. It's going to give you the same result. And an oxygen absorber is going to take out the oxygen, it's going to depress your lid and give you that vacuum seal, effect as well. Now, as far as different sizes goes, when you are sealing mason jars, you're going to need a 100 cc oxygen absorber. When it comes to oxygen absorber sizes, you can always go higher than what's needed, but you don't want to go lower than what's needed. There are all sorts of reference charts online, online that you can Google, like oxygen absorber cc sizes, and it'll tell you what you need for a quart jar or a gallon jar or a 5-gallon bucket or something like that. And just remember, you can go higher than the number of cc's needed, but not lower. So these are 300 cc's, and I generally don't like to buy different size absorbers for all the different things. I don't use them enough to warrant having all of those different sizes. So I generally stock the 300 cc's because that is generally enough or more than enough than what I need for the different types of sizes that I personally do. So just keep that in mind, that there are different sizes. Now, I am not going to open this bag and actually put one in the jar because this is the only thing that I need to vacuum seal, and I'm just going to use one of the things that I've already showed you. And the reason why I don't want to demonstrate that is because as soon as an oxygen absorber comes in contact with air, it begins to activate. And once it activates, you can't deactivate it until all of the oxygen in the environment is gone, which of course that wouldn't happen here in the open air, and they would all just pitter out. So if you have an already sealed bag, like when you buy them, you're going to get a bag that has some kind of color indicator on it. They're normally pink or gray. Mine are this pink color, and that means that they're still good and active. If this little circle right here was gray, that would mean that the absorbers inside of this particular package are no longer good. So just keep that in mind as well. But you would simply cut this bag, take one of the absorber packets out, drop it in your jar, put your lid on, and go ahead and seal it nice and tight. You don't worry about doing it barely fingertip tight or anything like that. You can do it nice and tight because it's only taking out the air inside this jar. It's not having to suck the air in here and push it out. So nice and tight. You can put it on your shelf. Usually within an hour, the seal will be nice and sealed and you'll be good to go. So I do need to vacuum seal this jar and put it back up on my shelf. So I'm going to do that real quick and wrap this video up. I hope it's been helpful to you. All of the gadgets that you have seen in this video will be linked in the description box below. If I had to pick my absolute favorite, I mean, they have different pros and cons. We've talked about it. They have different use cases. The freeze dryer, being able to do it in bulk is awesome, but I know that not everybody has a freeze dryer. If I had to rank my absolute favorite all around, it's gonna be the brake bleeder pump, just because of how passionate I am about not having to use things that need to charge or have batteries. For ease of use and not wearing out my arm muscles, I really like this device from Weevac. But man, it gives a good suction. I mean, you really got to pull this thing off. I can imagine that some people might struggle to pull this off because the suction is so good. So you might want to consider that as well. Make sure it's good. I'm not gonna pop this one open because I do need this to go onto the jar nice and sealed. We are done with the video, so I don't need to pop the seal on that. Okay, y'all, I hope that was helpful to you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.